Okay, perfect. Then I want to present. All right, so welcome to this webinar with me. I'm Vishruti Bindal and I work as the education manager at Momentual. Momentual is a full stack services company and I lead their education department. So I've been curating a lot of these webinars, workshops, and masterclasses for the Kirklees community. And apart from that, I also run capacity building programs and other education programs in the company. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Indian music market. It is growingly a very important music market in the world, um, just by the way of how many exciting opportunities are there for the world in terms of fan discovery, in terms of music export, in terms of collaboration opportunities. And those are some of the things that we will explore in this webinar today. So, yeah, let's do it. Just a quick overview of India. India, if you're not familiar with, is in the region of South Asia. Last calculated population of the country was 1.35 billion, but I'm pretty sure we're way ahead of that now. The capital of the country is Delhi, and the largest city in the country is Mumbai. Um, Technically, we have two official languages, which is English and Hindi, but actually, we have 22 scheduled languages, which are the official languages in various regions in India. So it differs by the state in which you're in India, actually. And apart from that, we also have over 400 plus native languages. So you could almost assume that languages in India change every 100 kilometers or so. Here are some common stereotypes about India that may or may not be true. Um, yeah, but I just wanted to highlight some of the stereotypes first and then get into the reality of this situation. I also have noticed that a lot of people assume that we only eat basmati rice, but I kind of want to just share the variety of rice and generally variety of food across India, and to emphasize on the fact that the culture actually changes every few hundred kilometers and it's not really like any other country in the world. And that's why the music market is also quite complex in India. Also, not all Indians are Hindu. We're constitutionally a secular country. We also celebrate religious holidays from many different religions around the world. We're also the fourth largest exporters of beef in the world. Um, and we sometimes converse with each other in English because our first language may be different. So that's also an interesting fact about Indians. Not every Indian can speak to another Indian in a native language, and I can't speak to my partner in his native language. For example, we only communicate in English. So let's get into the Indian music market. Broadly speaking, we can kind of look at the five different moving parts of the Indian music market. There's the television music market, which is music being used in films, in advertisements, in OTT platforms like Netflix, Amazon, and the local ones, etc., etc. Um, from a crore in INR is approximately about 100,000 GBP for calculations. Um, and then there's the radio stream of revenue, which is not actually a big revenue source for artists because radios don't pay out royalties to artists. And it is a very long running court case in India. But at the same time, radios do make money with through broadcast, and the industry is about upwards of 2,000 crores. Live events is specifically in music is about 1,200 crores, but actually the events business itself, including live music and other entertainment events, goes upwards of 6,000 crores. And then films is a little bit different than television because in television we're talking about moving image that's being broadcasted either on through television or through OTTs, but in films we're actually talking about the film industry alone, which is your Bollywood, Tollywood, Collywood, and all of the other hoods that exist in India. And then there's audio OTT streaming, which is your Spotify, Apple Music, and other local streaming platforms that we will talk about in the coming slides. That's about 2,700 crores. So this is the overall Indian music market currently, and it's evolving pretty quickly. Let's look at the recorded music market and how the industry is set up in India. Well, in the recorded music market, um, like I said, the revenue is about 1,000 crores, which approximately is about 106 million GBP. Um, if I were to broadly categorize all the players in the recorded music market, which is your labels and label ancillary services, I would split them into four major categories. One is the international major labels, which is the three majors that we all deal with in every part of the world: Sony, Universal, and Warner. And then we also have local and regional major labels, which capture a big part of the Indian music market, which is Tips, Z, T Series, and Saregama as an example. But there's at least 400 plus of local and regional major labels with various languages that we discussed in the earlier slide. And then there's the independent labels. Some examples are Pagal Henna, Azadi Records, The Movement, but there's various others. Ayush, there's one based out of Guwahati called No Binary Records, which is one of my favorites from the region that you're based in. I don't know if you've heard of them music or if you work with them.
I've heard, came across the name. Yes.
Okay, cool. They're doing some pretty cool work in Guwahati and generally in the region, so you should check them out. And then there's label services like Madverse, The Orchard, and Believe, which kind of work in an interesting space where they don't really do the label's job fully, but they support marketing and playlist pitching and things like that. So they kind of provide the label service, but they're not really a full stack label yet. So that's kind of how the recorded music market works. There's also the local streaming players that you should be on if you're putting music out. So, of course, there's your Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon Prime Music and all of those. But these four streaming platforms are where regional music gets streamed the most, or locals in India also listen to music a lot on. Hangama Music, Ghana, Reso, and Wink Music. It's also interesting to note that TikTok is actually banned in India, so TikTok strategies don't work in India anymore. But what is interesting is that the TikTok parent company actually runs Reso, which is still by some magic not banned in India yet. So that's a streaming platform that is doing pretty well right now, and you should definitely consider being on it and make sure your distributor is distributing to these platforms wherever you are in the world. And then we also have Wink Music, which is quite an interesting platform because it's run by Airtel, which is a telecommunication major. So, for example, my SIM card is actually Airtel owned, and they also bundle Wink Music as a music streaming platform in their recharge packages. So, everyone who uses Airtel almost always gets either notifications or promotions through Wink Music and targeted ads and things like that. So the reach that Wink Music has is actually really huge in India. Um, and yeah, you should definitely make sure that your music is being distributed on Wink. Another interesting fact about Wink is that they also distribute music themselves. So you could potentially even be in touch with Wink directly to put your music on Wink and on other platforms in India. Quite strange, but it's happening. So, what does music from India sound like? I don't want this session to be boring, so we're going to also have to listen to some fun music from India. I'm just going to try and share my sound. 1 second. Okay, perfect. Please excuse me if you hear ads. I don't really have YouTube Premium. 1 second.
to my fairy tale. Oh, you put the skip to my feet. You're a summer sun to my lonely beach. You put the lock on my door. Throw away the key, I'll be your prisoner. Now you can live forever, man, don't have to try. Baby, hurry up, make up your
So that's a band called F16s from Chennai, the south of India. But actually, we have a really big indie English scene in India. English, like I said, is one of the official languages, and also one of the languages that the urban communities in India communicating with each other. So, yeah, if you are making music in English specifically, then it would be a very interesting opportunity for you to reach out to other independent artists in the India English indie scene and look and explore for collaboration opportunities. The best way to find independent Indian artists that are making music in any language actually would be gig lineups. Um, I will tell you a little bit more about which gig lineups to look at in the upcoming slides. But let's continue listening to music. Next, we have indie pop, but in regional language. This is again in Tamil from South India. Let's listen to this one. Of course, a customary ad of cricket to inaugurate this video.
அன்னைக்கு ராத்திரி மழையை எதிர்பார்க்கல அப்படி கொட்டும் என்ன நீ என்கிட்ட சொல்லல ஊபர் கிடைக்கல ரோட்டில் யாரும் நடக்கல நான் என்று நடந்து வந்தேனே இருட்டு சந்தில முரட்டு ஆளறுத்த மேல கீழே என்ன பார்த்தானே சரண உலகம் என் உலகம் இந்த உலகம் வேற மாறி மாறுது சரண உலகம் என் உலகம் இந்த உலகம் சிவப்பாகுது வேற மாறி மாறுது சிவப்பாகுது
So that's Mally. And she's been actually making indie music in English for a very long time and now exploring her native language to create music in. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there were a few English phrases in there as well. And it's actually quite common for artists to collaborate across languages and have multi-language songs. So that's another very interesting opportunity. If you think sonically someone fits your vibe but maybe creates music in a different language in India, then that's also a potential collaboration opportunity for you, I would say, where you could maybe have a verse in English, or you could have a bridge in English, and then they would write in their regional language and things like that. So that's another potential collaboration opportunity. This is an example of, I would say, Bollywood or film adjacent sounding music. Let me just play that for you.
रंग सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे रंग सारी गुलाबी चुनरिया रे मोहे मारे नजरिया सावरिया रे मोहे मारे नजरिया सावरिया रे
So that was an example of what a Bollywood or a film adjacent song could sound like, but that was, I would definitely say, one of the more tasteful songs that came out of the film industry. Um, then another example of some of the interesting collaborations that happen. This I would put in the regional pop space, but again very film inspired. This song also recently blew up on Instagram. Like I said, we don't really have TikTok, so we use apps like ShareChat or Instagram to do our short form marketing and promotion, and this one blew through that. So let's hear it.
Studio Bharat.
My
Subscribe.
ગોતીલો 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 તમે ગોતીલો ગોતીલો નથી જે મજામાં ખાલી બાવટા ધજામાં એવો હાડનો પ્રવાસી ગોતીલો ઓ કાંઠેથી જા તું જા દરિયેથી જા તું જા કાંઠેથી જા તું જા ગોતીલો તમે ગોતીલો ગોતીલો કાંઠેથી જા તું જા જા દરિયેથી જા તું જા કાંઠેથી જા તું જા ગોતીલો તમે ગોતીલો ગોતીલો એ વેવાદો 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 જાવઈએ રેવાદો 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 જા સહીએ વેવાદો 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 હવે રેવાદો 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 હવે નથી જે મજામાં ખાલી વાવટા ધજામાં એવો હાડનો પ્રવાસી ગોતીલો
એવો કોણ છે ખલાસી મને કહી દો ને એના સામને ઠેકાણા મને દઈ દો ને એવો કોણ છે ખલાસી મને કહી દો ને
ગોતીલો તમે ગોતીલો ગોતીલો
એવો કોણ છે ખલાસી મને કહી દો ને એના સામને ઠેકાણા મને દઈ દો ને એવો કોણ છે ખલાસી મને કહી દો ને
ગોતીલો તમે ગોતીલો ગોતીલો
So that's an interesting one, because it's a song in Gujarati, which is from West India, and it's very folk inspired, but it's definitely in the regional pop category. And if you like, since you don't know the people playing the song, fun fact, the drummer is also a singer songwriter in the indie space. So there's a lot of collaboration happening between the film industry and the new talent coming in the indie scene. And these are some of the ways that the independent artists in India actually try and increase their income streams by collaborating on such projects. So that's an interesting example of regional pop. Finally, I will close with one of my favorite indie folk rock bands that make music in Nepali, from South India, but actually quite popular in East India. I don't know if you've heard of Golibhai Ayush, but they're quite popular in Kalimpong and I think frequent Guwahati as well on their tours.
दिन दिनको पानीले कुटेर हामी दुई गए रङ फेरि तिमीलाई नै रोजेर खाटमा नै पर्खी बसी मध्यरात परिगएन तिमी ढिटो बनी फोन गर्छु रिङ लाग्छ चुपचाप काट्छौ तिमी राति राति म सडक र फाटक चुरो सकाइ हिँडे बितेका दिन सम्हालेर तिम्रो नै चिठी पढे हरियाली सहानी जागी तिमी त्यसैमा छ नाचेकी
So that was Golibhai, and With that, I will get into the live music market. I think one of the most exciting parts of the Indian music business. Like I said, that the events market, the organized events industry rather, is upwards of 6,000 crores in India. And I would segment broadly again all the live music activities into four different parts, and they are quite unique to India actually, some of these parts. So the first really big part of this is the music festivals. It's something that's, I would say, only grown in the last 1 decade, and it continues to grow still, where we see a few festivals coming up every single year. Lollapalooza's Asia Pacific um, uh, edition is actually now happening in India for the last 2 years, and it's become quite quickly one of the biggest music festivals in India right now. Apart from that, we have, I would say we have upwards of 40 or 50 music festivals. These are some examples for you guys to look into. So there's Lollapalooza, which is, I would say, genre agnostic. There's Magnetic Fields, which is very electronic music driven, happens in a beautiful palace in the West India, in a small town called Alcesar. There's Echoes of Earth, which is a very sustainable and climate first music festival, again from Bangalore. And then there's Weekender, which is quite popular and well known outside of India, happens in Pune and in Shillong every year. Apart from that, we obviously have the venue shows category, which exists in every other part of the world, also I suppose. These are some of the popular venues that independent artists in India can play in. I haven't really included the cover pubs or restaurant scene because I thought that wasn't really relevant to this call, but that also exists. This is purely independent music venues. The third category, which I would say is quite unique to India, is college festivals. So we have a lot of big universities in India, which are either public funded or privately funded. And it's almost like a competitive idea of building a festival that's like music and culture focused for the college. And then it's almost like an unsaid competition, like whose college has the better fest, has a better lineup, has better artists coming and performing and things like that. So yeah, I would say there are at least 40 to 50 again really high quality college festivals happening in India. And apart from that, every single college has some kind of cultural events happening, and that's a really big source of revenue for bigger bands, because they get a straight booking fee to come in and play. But also, festivals like Mood Indigo and Strawberry Fields curate international artists as well. So that's a very interesting opportunity for artists in the UK to look into. Um, the fourth and the final part of the live music market is the DIY house concert scene, which is again, I think, very interesting for artists from the UK. I've personally curated many artists from UK and Europe for these properties. And there's, again, at least every city has at least one house concert property going for them. These three are the three that I'm most familiar with. So there's the Living Room Kacheri, there's House Concert Foundation, and there's So Far Sounds, which is globally well known as a brand. But apart from that, there are many more based on which city you're looking into in India. If you're looking to come in enter the Indian market, then I would say that DIY house concerts are your best bet to get shows. In fact, you could even partner up with the local independent artists and plan a tour with just DIY house concerts in India, and that's completely possible to do. And the second thing that you can also do is then book venue shows in cities that are nearby, or in the same city you do like a house concert or a venue show, and I think that would also be quite a successful tour. And you will have to build considerable amount of fan base to then do college festivals and music festivals, but these two you can already do right away if that's something you're interested in. Next, we should talk about the music publishing and sync business in India, which is pretty non existent. Like you can see, 0.9%. But there's a big opportunity in this business in India right now because, again, it's something that's consistently growing. The OTT market has really helped this sync business boom because now international OTT platforms are pushing for sync and sync opportunities in India. In fact, Netflix recently ran a music supervision training cohort that I was also a part of. And all the OTT platforms are really pushing for this. So this is again a very interesting opportunity to look into. Just like we did with the labels, even in this business, I would categorize it in four categories. You'll obviously, it's a very unique thing to India that film music historically was always owned by the same company, the publishing and the label rights. So, which is why that all the major publishers are also all the major labels because they bought out rights on both sides. No songwriters in the film business at least 20 up until even 10 years ago and even now actually they never sign with like a separate publisher and a separate label. They're always bought out together with by the same company. So like you can see the major, there are international majors, which is the Sony, the Universal, and the Warner Music Publishing. There's the regional labels, sorry, regional publishers. So there's Tips, ZT, CD, Saregama, and all the others that are in the region. And then there's independent publishers, which are quite interesting. There is Anara Publishing, that's actually run by a UK-based company called Horus Music. And there's a lot of synergy between them in the UK and in India. So this is a company that you should definitely look out for if your interest is in the Indian market. And the other independent publisher is Turnkey, which also represents Cobalt Music Publishing in India. So if your music is already with Cobalt, then chances are that you're already represented in India through Turnkey. So these are two really cool publishers, independent publishers that you should look into while considering a strategy for the Indian market. And then we also have a very recent growth in sync agencies and libraries with this whole need being created by your OTT platforms. So there's Dibble, that is actually a full service company. They do music supervision, they have a sync library, and they do music searches like an agency as well. And then there's Hooper, which is also in the similar space to Dibble. So these are some companies that you should look into. Strategically, what you could do is if you are a producer or someone who creates sample packs or can create music produced on the go or has a big catalog of produced music and is interested in the sync business in India, ideally you would reach out to Dibble and Hooper and try and get your music in their catalog so your music can find more use in the Indian market. So that's how you could play that. Now, I think we can look into some opportunities that are UK and India specific. The first one is actually a very exciting grant opportunity by British Council. It's called the International Collaboration Grants 2024. The deadline for this grant is 30th or 31st April. Does April have 31 days? I forget, but maybe not. No. So 30th April is the deadline. The last day of the month is the deadline in April for this grant. Um, it's a collaboration grant that offers about £1 million total in grants, and you can apply for maximum £75,000. What you need to do to apply to this grant is essentially find a partner in another country. India is one of the countries. There's many other countries, so you can look at the full list on the British Council website. But essentially, you need to be a UK-based organization, so you can even find a local organization in Kirklees to apply this through, and then find an India partner for yourself, and then apply to this grant with an artistic project. The projects are very open, so you can choose what type of project you'd like to apply with as well. 30th of April, yes, Sarah. So you can choose what projects you can apply with. It can be showcases, performances, residencies, mixed media art, really anything. The very open-ended this grant. So I hope you guys make the most of this opportunity. Another thing that I already mentioned is the rise in Netflix and Amazon shows in India. And we are always in need for production houses, sample music creators, and producers in the region. So I would highly recommend, if you already run a production house and have a catalog, please reach out to publishers in India and reach out to sync agencies in India and try to get a deal for your catalog. Finally, I would also look at the networking opportunities available in music in India right now. There are four main conferences. Some of them are quite recent, some of them have been running for a few years now. There's All About Music that happens in Mumbai. It's a conference that happens in August or September. They kind of change the month every year. So I guess we'll find out which month they're going to be doing it in this year. But it's a very big music conference with about 3,000 to 3,500 people attending it. Everyone in the Indian music business is available at this conference. So this is a great way to network. Also, BPI in the UK always does a trade mission to All About. So the easiest way to get into an All About lineup, whether it's showcase or networking corners or speaker opportunities, is to sign up with the BPI newsletter, and then they'll ask you to submit an application for All About when All About dates are announced as an opportunity if you're a UK based business. So that's one way to go about that. There's Deccan Alternative Music Conference, which is something I started quite recently in Feb this year. Actually, it's a small boutique conference that is run in Bangalore, and yeah, we're definitely not in competition with All About. It's very hyper local and focused on the regional music scene. So if that's something you're interested in, then this is a conference that you could be in. It, I think, would make more sense if you're an artist from that origins in the Deccan region, or maybe makes music in one of the languages that are from the Deccan region. Otherwise, I would say you should skip attending that conference. There's Asia Music Summit, which is a really big music conference in the Northeast. I don't know if you've heard of this, Ayush Deep, but it's a conference organized by TAFMA, which is the Music Business Task Force by the Nagaland government. And Nagaland is a state in the Northeast of India. There's a lot of international delegations also going to Asia Music Summit. So this is something you should really consider while coming and planning to come to India. Finally, there is Rise Dell, which is a music and music adjacent conference. So it focuses on entertainment industries and creator economy and early entertainment startups. And this also has a quite an interesting range of speakers, and again a lot of networking opportunities, seemingly maybe even funding opportunities for companies or opportunities for growth and business development. So that's another conference in Delhi that you can also look at while planning a trip to India. And that's it from me for the Indian music market. I will stop talking now and take any questions you guys may have. I hope I didn't talk too much.
So neither of you got questions, because I've got a couple. Well, there was observations. I, I just how westernized some of those tracks sounded, especially the two film ones. That's there was one that actually had a real kind of South American feel to it. You know, you could kind of see that working with Pablo in Mexico. You know, that band could go there and do that,
Yeah.
and yeah, and they would slot in.
Yeah,
Um,
the thing that it's so interesting because a lot of the folk and tribal rhythm patterns across the world actually can sound really similar. Like if you listen to that song and then you listen to music from West Africa, you might also hear a lot of
there's
similarities
lots of,
there as
yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
There has been like some synergy within the Latin world and the Indian music world also recently with I think one or two really big collaborations. I'm not sure where that's going, but reggaeton beat has, for example, become really popular in Bollywood.
Right. And then the other thing was, what's the visa situation? Do you know, would bands need or artists need visas? Well, they would, wouldn't they? But what?
Yeah, you can easily apply for a short business visa. It's very easy, especially if you're from Europe. So how it has worked in the past is when I've booked European bands in India, they usually apply it through their export office. So we just send them an invitation with the dates, and then they use that invitation to then get a business visa. I don't remember the cost, but it's not expensive at all. It's nothing like the US. So it's just to put it out there. So it's no, it's very it's definitely very affordable and something that artists can easily do.
Right, yeah, because the US is like you need a mortgage, you
Yeah,
need
it's
to
like
take out or a major bank
$5,000 or
loan.
something per
Yeah,
band member.
per band member, that's right.
Yeah.
Um, and which Western artists are sort of big, and are are there any Western artists and bands that are really big in India? And
Yeah,
if so, are they in the major cities rather than regional, or doesn't it matter?
I would say that. So the thing is that the hypothesis that they may be big in regional cities hasn't been confirmed because the shows always happen in the bigger cities. Like
Yeah,
when they're touring in India, they're always playing Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore. They don't really go to other cities. But if you look at YouTube streaming data for some of these artists, you'll see the smallest of cities from India on like the top 10 cities. So streaming is definitely a volume game and India has that volume. And I
yeah,
would say that all kinds of cities, big, small, tier one, tier two, tier three, actually have fans for these artists. It's just not explored enough at the moment.
yeah, yeah,
Also, with pricing, I don't think it would make much sense unless there's big sponsorship involved because the tier two, tier three cities will not be able to pay the same ticket price as a city dweller in Bombay can.
true, absolutely true. And from a marketing point of view, I know how big YouTube is, and it's one of the main sources for streaming for audiences. Um, and this was because I was working with a lass, a young lady in Bradford. I was using Yorkshire language there, Vishruti. I'm not, but yeah, I was working with her, and she was setting up a label wanting to release Indian music from Bradford. And of course, YouTube was the key thing and the big thing. And um, so, from a marketing point of view, once you've got your deals with the distributors, would you be best focusing on marketing through YouTube first,
I would
and say YouTube and Instagram for your short form?
It depends on your marketing budgets because YouTube, again, you need to really drain money on marketing to get anywhere with YouTube numbers. And
Mm,
usually it's a lot more cost effective to then do marketing on Instagram for independent artists. But I would still say to keep building portfolio of videos on YouTube. And there's a lot of cross promotion as well. Like if something goes viral on Instagram, in fact, Snapchat is also a really big app in India now. Something I should have included in my presentation, but Snapchat is also a really big app in India now. So if you're distributing your music on Snapchat and Instagram, and if it starts going viral, you will see a ripple effect on other platforms. When I was curating music for Snapchat, every time a song went viral on Snapchat, we would start seeing reels increase on Instagram, for example. So there's a lot of synergy between these platforms because when I'm
yeah,
listening to a song on Spotify and I love it, my first instinct is to go to YouTube and see if there's a video, right?
yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Because of course over here Snapchat is so last century, that people have moved on from Snapchat. But it's really interesting that, and I used to say this to students when I was still teaching, don't give up on things. Like, don't assume websites are out of fashion because of social media, because you never know when you might need that particular social media, and you might have an audience that actually predominantly uses that, and they won't be in the UK, they could be elsewhere. So yeah, no, that's interesting, Snapchat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so with YouTube, I would say the success that is seen in India, especially with Indian music, is when people are releasing through major labels and there's like thousands of pounds being spent on marketing. So if that's
Yeah.
not your budget, I think Instagram is the best way to go. And there's a lot of like micro influencer marketing that also happens on Instagram that could be useful, where someone could create a small dance and ask a couple of micro influencers to maybe do it, and that is a very interesting way things actually kind of pick up in India as well. So yeah, you should just look into some of those strategies.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're welcome. Any questions from Jasmine or Ayushdeep?
I wanted to speak. I just wanted to like understand, like there's this whole wave that has come in that I have personally experienced out here.
Yeah,
Like there's this element of progressive music.
yeah,
So there has been because if I around because the weekend music festival that used to happen in Shillong.
yeah,
Now this has for some reason they have put it on hold. So it
right,
has not been happening for the last 2 to 3 years now.
yeah,
It hasn't been happening in. Now the last time it happened, there was a major artist from London who had come in,
yeah,
Stephen Wilson.
yes,
So it was a pretty big deal for us, especially in the Northeast, because
yeah,
he
he
has a
was
very
quite
high
famous.
influence throughout.
Yeah,
So I think he owns his own label by the name Kaleidoscope
yes,
Curious, yeah. So, like, yeah, the progressive element which has come in, like, it's slowly, I mean, but surely, it's creeping into the music scenario. Now, because we're talking about the Western influences in the music, the culture out here. So that's why I wanted to understand, like, because it's the industry, I have seen it that it's scattered out here, like most of the music production or the or like in layman's term, the money, all right, the money is in mostly in the metros. But if you go like Bombay or Delhi or Bangalore, so money, major companies are putting their offices there.
right,
Very seldom they come into the interior regions, like the artist that you have just shown, the Nepali language artist, right?
yeah,
So, the money for artists of that caliber, they are not able to grasp that.
right,
So, like, if I recently, probably 2 years back, there was a band by the name Arogya, all
yeah,
right, from Guwahati only, and they have been signed up in by they have played the first radio station in Denmark.
yeah,
So their music was played there. So it wasn't for I mean. I was in the known group, so it was like, what do you call? It was a proud moment for us. So getting a recognition outside India, but they still lack the recognition out here in India. Am I able to express myself clearly here?
I completely understand. I think that is a big gap in the Indian music market that potentially people like you can fill, because there's not enough stakeholders trying to have, like, there's a lot of sense of competition in the Indian music market, and there's not enough people trying to bring it together or expand the scope to like other cities. Sarah, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, so I think that Sarah would be able to answer some of this also really well, because I would say Kirklees also is in a similar spot where it is a smaller music market compared to the major London or even Manchester and places like that. But because there is local support and government support, they're able to create workshops like these or invest in the local music scene, which is what is a gap in India right now. So I think that needs to be recognized, like the value of music and creative industries needs to be recognized in India by governments and by other important stakeholders for like investment to come in and for things to progress, if that makes sense. I usually,
Yeah, yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, yes.
No, that,
People are actually looking forward to such opportunities every
Yeah,
day.
yeah, absolutely. Sarah, what
yeah,
do you?
no, that's no, you're absolutely spot on, and it's like talking to your local government, and also if you've got anyone that's in the cultural industries or in music who's well known and locally, is to network with them and talk about collaborating and putting on a conference or doing that sort of thing and building on that. I mean, talking about the big labels, it's the same here in the UK still. We've only just had EMI move up to Leeds, and I've been up here over 40 years, and yeah, that's where you know, they've been in London all this time and finally they've moved to Leeds. So it's just the way major labels are. They stick where the big money is, but you make your own record labels and you release your own music. That's what we did locally.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Sarah.
That's all right.
Yeah, I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining in, everyone. And yeah, Sarah, do you want to tell us some more about the next session?
Yeah, this, yeah, Jasmine, this might be of interest to people that you're working with. It's going to be PRS Foundation talking about their funding for musicians and music organizations. So I'm not sure how you heard about this particular webinar, but I've got your email address, so I'll put you on my mailing list.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Thank you. And thank you so much for this session. It's been really, really interesting. It's great to hear about this. I mean, I'm really interested, particularly in like diasporic artists, working with the Indian market, and yeah, I can see a few things that I know that diasporic artists have been engaging with. But I just wondered, I mean, I also teach as well as do research, and I wondered, is this recording going to be made available anywhere? Because I think my students would really benefit from listening to this.
Yeah, we will be uploading the recording on the community, and Sarah or I can send you. I don't have your email. Maybe Sarah can send you a link to the community, and your students can join it. It's free, and then they can be updated on any future talks that we organize, which is
Yeah.
every 2 weeks actually. So
yeah. Yeah, it's the Kirklees Music Ecosystems. But Jasmine, I'll send you emails. Would you like Vishruti's email to be able to communicate with her about, because she of course works in the music industry in India?
If that's okay with
Yes,
you.
that would be nice.
Okay. Is that all right, Vishruti?
absolutely, yeah, I can just put it in
Okay.
the chat now.
Okay, but I'll email you both with Vishruti's email. The Kirklees Music Ecosystem's pretty much for Kirklees, but you're welcome to join if you want, Ashinda.
Yes,
So
I would definitely.
okay, because there's could be collaboration there could be all sorts. Okay, listen, I've got to go, I'm afraid, but it was really lovely to be in the